Is it going to be injectors? Is it going to be plugs? Is it going to be a tune? Is it going to be fuel? What is going to be wrong with the M4? We find out on today's episode of Soria Motorsports. All jokes aside, let's figure out what's wrong with the M4. I'm tired of this car running like crap. I'm tired of it not performing to its best, and I don't want anything bad to happen to it further than what's happened. I think it's out of our control, though. We have a 71,200 miles on the car, so it's about time for injectors. We may go ahead and pop a brand new set of injectors in here, but for right now, the first step is to go ahead and pull all these plugs and figure out what we have going on in here. If the plugs are white, that means we're running really lean. If the plugs are black, that means we're running really rich. That'll also let us know if an injector is spraying too much, spraying too little. Could be injector seals. We got a lot going on today, guys. Let's dive into the M4 and see what we got. Strut bars off. We're going to go ahead and proceed to take this intake off, take these charge pipes off, and then we'll start getting into the nitty-gritty of this top cover. You need an E12. You have 6 E12s, 2 13 millimeters, and 1 10 millimeter for the coolant reservoir to get all that stuff off. Then you're going to need whatever you're using for an 8 or a 7 millimeter socket for this one, or if you have the factory BMW intakes, you may need like a T15 or a T20 to get all that off, or a T25, excuse me. For these guys, same thing. If you have an 8 millimeter, 7 or an 11 millimeter, depending on what clamps you have T-bolt clamps, V-bands, or if you have just normal hose clamps like we do, then you'll go from there. Please excuse it. I know this car is filthy dirty. We talked about this. We have both the charge pipes off. We have the bare turbo right here. I'm going to cover up this other turbo port. Once I took the other thing off from the intake, these were the charge pipes. We're going to go ahead and pull this cover off in a second. Once this guy comes off, it will let us see where our coil packs are. Then we can pull off the coil packs, pull out the plugs, and we'll go and label these plugs out and lay them out. I'll show you how to do that very nicely. I have a cool little system for kind of organizing these plugs, and you guys probably have the same exact thing. It's not too hard. It's actually really easy to do, but it just helps you align what plug went where on the car, and you can easily do it on the BMWs 1 through 6 on the back. It's super easy. I'll show you how to do this. All you need is a piece of cardboard. It's really easy. Okay, this cover pops off. It was a T25. Takes this screw out right here, pops this black cover off. Then you have access to all the coil packs. I've already taken one of these out just to kind of see what I was looking at, and I'm gonna walk you guys through it. This bar is also gonna have to be removed, the back kind of strut brace bar, as well as to get this plastic cover off so you can get to number 6. This has all these bolts in here. It's going to be an E14 and some E12s after you take the carbon brace off. Then you have these were 13 millimeters for me. You're going to take this off, and this guy's going to pick up. You're also going to have 2 17 millimeter bolts right here in the center. And this flap is kind of going to come up when this piece picks up, and it's super easy to remove. I'll show you right now. You're going to pick this up, get it over the studs, do the same thing with this side. And I'll pick up like this. That flap picks up, and then you come out of the car with it. Once that's out of the way, you're going to also take this foam. It has a ground wire in here. Kind of be careful with that guy, but you can kind of peel him back and get him out of the way. He doesn't have to come completely out of the way, but I don't want to leave it in a bind, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it all the way and just kind of get it to where it's not going to get messed up, and just kind of leave him sitting over here. Make sure you take note and cover all of your little portholes over here. These two I'm not really worried about because I don't have a chance to really drop anything into those. But from now on, we're going to go ahead and take these 2 10 millimeters out and get this little plastic rain tray out so I can get the number 6 coil pack right here. Okay, for this plastic rain tray, there was a total of 5 10 millimeter screws. You're also going to pick this guy up and you can pull him out to the side. You're also going to maybe check this seal right here because you don't want any water getting in the back of the motor where a bunch of the electronics are. So you're going to go ahead and check the seal. Our seal is kind of pushed to the side right now, I see. So let me try to push that back over here and get some more silicone and maybe douse this up with silicone a little bit just so we can ensure we get a good seal and we don't have any rain leaking back there. Okay, now comes the fun part. If you've ever worked on a BMW, if you've ever worked on one, change the spark plugs in one. It's all the same. It's super easy, super simple, and it's really not hard at all, guys. Sometimes the coil packs will get stuck and you just take a screwdriver and pop it up. It's super easy. I'm going to show you right now. You can do it. Don't be scared. With cylinder 1 right here, you're going to take this guy, flip it up just like this. It may not push all the way back and push this plug out. If it doesn't, no worries. Then you take a screwdriver and twist it if this plug is kind of stuck in here on some of the older cars. And then this plug will pull right out. And then if this guy is kind of stuck, let's see. Nope, he wasn't that stuck. But say this guy would have been stuck in here and I wouldn't be able to get him out with my finger. You have to be careful where you pry. We don't really want to break this guy, but you can stick this up under here and kind of use this for more leverage. Instead of having to stick your finger through here, you can kind of stick a screwdriver through here and pull up on the screwdriver, and it'll give you a lot more leverage. Coil pack number 1, we're going to put this right here on our box. This is what I like to do. I like to do 1 through 6 on the cylinders and go ahead and lay everything out. I know this is coil pack 1. It's going to go right here at 1. I'll lay the spark plug right here. I'm also noting, so when I put it in the notes for maintenance on the car, that this was 71,000 miles I did the plugs. Coil pack 2 is going to go here, then 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that way it keeps everything aligned, and I'll set a spark plug here and there, and so on and so forth. What that does is keep everything aligned. It keeps you knowing exactly what you're doing, exactly where everything's at, and it kind of lets you just keep track of everything and have a good checklist for you. It's super easy to do, and it takes no time at all, because as you pull it out, you just put it on your cardboard box. It took me like 10 seconds to write on that cardboard box with a Sharpie and a pen. Super easy, guys. Let's knock the rest of these out. Also, for plugs, you're going to need a thin wall 14mm spark plug socket. This has little fingers in here that are going to help grab the plug. It's not magnetized and doesn't have rubber, so it can't fall out. This has little fingers in here. Drop a link down below. This came off Amazon for like $17. That way you can get in the motor and you can grab everything. All right, all the plugs are out, all the coils are out. This is kind of what we're working with. They really don't look terrible. Not even cylinder 3, even though the coil pack looks like it got contaminants in the top of the sleeve, like this didn't seal properly. Then we're gonna go ahead and buy a new one and replace him, but the plug itself still does not look bad. Like, everything looks really good there. Everything looks good and normal on number 4. Same with 5, and same with 6. I'm kind of gathering from this is it just needed a plug service. I don't think we have any major issues here. I don't see any of them covered in oil. I don't see any of them very white and lean. So I think we're really good here. I think it just was time for the plug service, guys. I think it's time for the plug service. I might change, instead of doing every 15,000, I think we might do every 10,000 change the plugs. I'm not entirely sure yet. That's really a question for Mr. Soria Motorsports of Hindle. Gonna see what he recommends and kind of what we should do on that aspect. Going back with the NGK laser iridium plugs, we are going to do the same 2-step coulter plugs that all the M4 guys usually run, because we have a pretty aggressive tune on here. I'm just going to kind of keep it standard. Next, we're going to gap the new plugs before we put them in the car. We're going to use a 0.23 gap on these. So what we're going to do here is, this is the correct tool to gap the plug so you can bend it out without hurting the little electrode on the end of the plug. We also have some snap-on feeler gauges to make sure we get the appropriate 0.23 gap on the plug. Once we go ahead and do this, then we're able to put everything back in the car and tighten everything down. Okay, so here we have a brand new plug, you can see. Try to get a good background for you guys. We have a 0.23 feeler gauge right here beside me. What we're going to do is go ahead and stick this into the plug, and this is going to give us our range. Judging from what we have, it seems like we are a little bit bigger gap than we wanted. The plug can kind of move in this feeler gauge right now. So with that being the case, what we're going to do is take this little guy right here. He's going to grab the plug on this back perch right here to where you're not touching anything, and you're just going to ever so slightly bend it down, and you're going to close that gap. You're not going to bend this with a screwdriver. You're not going to beat it with a hammer. You're going to take that tool and ever so slightly bend it. Then we're going to put this back in here. We can see we are a little tighter. I can't move it as much in here, and we're pretty good right there. And right there we have a nice snug fit. It kind of grabs the thing a little bit, and we know we have a solid gap. We're going to take our second plug, put this right on our feeler gauge, and see if we have any play. We don't have a lot of play. We still have a little bit of play, so it's going to need some adjusting again. It seems like all these are going to be like a 0.24 gap. We're going to take this guy right here, put him back right here, and then bend this down ever so slightly. You can always bend it back up if you do too much. And then we're going to again put this on this feeler gauge and see we're still a little loose, so we're going to take this again, bend that guy down. We're going to take this over our feeler gauge, put them in here, and see it doesn't move back and forth now. It fits really snug. It kind of catches again, and that's exactly what we're looking for on the gap on these plugs to get a 0.23 fitment. All in all, that is really easy, guys. I know it's kind of intimidating thinking you could misgap the plug and kind of mess the car up, but as long as you get it somewhere in that range that you want, if you've talked to your tuner, if your car is tuned, or if you're going off BMW's OEM stuff, I believe OEM is like a 0.32 or a 0.3. Don't quote me on it, but I believe that's what OEM is. And obviously we're running tuning here, and we're running like a pretty aggressive tune, so we want to make sure we close that gap to help prevent misfires, prevent detonation, and kind of lower those combustion temperatures with this colder plug and closing the gap. Let's go ahead and install these guys. You're going to repeat this for all 6 plugs, make sure they're all the exact same gap. We're going to get back into it. All right, I'm back with my tinfoil hat on. It's really just my headlamp, but we have a snap-on torque wrench here. You're gonna need a really good torque wrench for this. I wouldn't recommend any of the kind of like cheap Harbor Freight guys. That's just my personal opinion. Whenever I'm doing engine stuff or stuff that I kind of have to rely on, if it's like a hood bolt or something, I even still want to use the good torque wrench, but there has been times when, you know, a good torque wrench wasn't available at the track, had to borrow one from somebody else. But whenever I can help it and I'm at the shop and we have access to good tools like this, it doesn't have to be a snap-on. I'm not advocating for snap-on. It can be any good quality brand torque wrench that you trust in. Use that for this. It's going to be 18 foot-pounds. I don't know the Newton meters. We're in America here, so I'm going off foot-pounds. Then we're going to move on to putting the coil packs back on the plugs, and then I'm really excited to drive this thing and see how much better it is with the new plugs. Okay, we're right here on cylinder 1. We're going to go ahead and attach this guy to it, and we're going to go ahead and do this slowly to 18 foot-pounds. Right there, we got 18.1, still in the green, so we're still okay. We move on to our next plug, and I would go ahead and run these in by hand, or if you have a little drill you can put on like a #1 setting that barely takes any torque to stop it, it'll kind of help speed this process up, but mostly just do it by hand or with a very, very low power drill. Right there, 18 on the dot. And go ahead and proceed and move to the next guy. Now we're going back in here with coil packs. We've taken these off our box, how I labeled them out straight. This is number 6 coil pack. We're gonna go ahead and push it into this, just like this. Push it down, you should get a nice little pop letting you know what's in there. Then we'll go ahead and take our plug, push him in. Push that guy down until it locks, and then we know that is successfully in. And we'll continue on throughout all of them. And we're back on number 3. So all I did was kind of wipe this guy off because we ended up looking inside of this coil pack and there was no kind of brown stuff on the inside of this coil pack. So it kind of just made sense that it was just something that got on the outside. We were perfectly fine with going to use this. If it does give problems or something, we have a misfire in cylinder 3, we kind of already know what the deal is and we can address that pretty quickly. For right now, we're just going to run this guy until I go ahead and replace all the coil packs at once. 70K, we really shouldn't need to do that. Make sure afterwards you go ahead and you give these a good snug push down. Just take your hand or your thumb and kind of push these down. Make sure they're all seated evenly. All of your plugs got clipped correctly, and then you should be good to go to pop this cover on and continue on. Guys, that's going to do it. The M4 plugs are done. We're going to go ahead and crank this bad boy up. I tried to kind of give you guys an in-depth look while I was doing it through the time lapse, kind of let you guys know exactly what I was doing in the time lapse, trying to make better content. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the video quality so far. And if you haven't subscribed, guys, think about subscribing. It would help a ton, and it helps you see more cool stuff like this, more DIYs, more how-tos, and just more cool videos in general. But nonetheless, the M4 plugs are a go. That was a check. I think I probably have a total of like 2 hours consecutively in doing this. It still has like a little, like you can tell it's not idling 110%, but it's not idling bad at all. I think this might just be a S55 thing that I'm not used to, but I do know it does feel a lot better. It does sound a lot better. It doesn't smell like raw fuel is dumping. I know that sounds really crazy, because all we did was change some plugs and 2 little O-rings. But I think it also had a lot to do with that intake kind of not sealing all the way. S55 trying to change your spark plugs, please let me know. Drop a comment down below, drop me a like. I really appreciate you guys checking out this video and watching it, and I hope it brought you some value and entertainment. I can't wait to show you what's more in store for the M4. I don't know what really we're gonna do yet. I don't have anything really up my sleeve for it besides like 2 little things. Power stroke is definitely going to be next. Appreciate you guys checking out this video and watching it. I really hope it brought you some value and entertainment. If it did, please leave me a like. If you didn't, leave me a dislike. Drop a comment down below when you change your spark plugs, or if you're about to change your spark plugs, and kind of what you guys ran into and what you guys didn't run into.